Hello, Utica!
Utica! You guys need the cookie.
Utica, what a pleasure to be back. Woo! My name is Rohan.
I'm Rin.
And we are Roux. Roux is a pop-up dining experience that cross-pollinates food and design. We create and host intimate and interactive dinners that celebrate food as this ultimate material for the exploration of design and craft. So every event has a theme, a menu around that theme, and then artwork and design that ties everything together.
We also source everything locally, visiting farms and farmers in the region so that we can better tell their story at our events. In this way, we're showcasing the entire sensory experience of dining, from the food to the atmosphere and everything in between. Rohan and I, we first met at Syracuse University in our dorm room watching Mad Men on Sunday nights. We were randomly paired up in an entrepreneurship program where our late nights really just turned into cooking our favorite family recipes. And this is where we discovered that food was really the bond and the glue for us that anchored our families around the dinner table to tell stories.
Roux as an idea showed that entrepreneurship could be the catalyst for our future. It was a platform to combine cooking, fabrication, Adobe programs, and our 5-year education into one. So while it hasn't been a piece of cake, locally sourced of course, it has been an amazing journey and a learning process so far. So we mentioned food and design a couple times, but what does that actually mean? Well, we're going to go to Syracuse to find out.
Salt. A single grain becomes the building block for cuisine everywhere. For Syracuse, it was the heart of the economy. Salt brines dotted the hilly landscape as it became a resource for everyone to use. Sun-dried and locally produced, the Syracuse salt manufacturing really emulated the manufacturing boom that took place during the 20th century. And while a period of decline swept the city, today, Syracuse has reclaimed its name as a salt city, where artists, entrepreneurs, designers, and makers are eager to forge a future on still fertile ground.
Listen, we're not history nerds, and no offense to history nerds out there, but we realized there was an opportunity to retell this 300-year history through a 7-course tasting menu. Our location was set in this hidden gem in downtown Syracuse, La Casita Gallery. Concrete floors, white-walled buttresses transform into our salt-themed event. So picture, on one wall, 50 different types of salts from around the world, printed on cardstock and hung with clothespins and fishing wire. Pastel colors and free-form shapes contrasted with the more practical and historical use for that salt.
Across from the salt wall hung infographics, historical photographs, and maps outlining the history that we had learned over the past couple weeks. So while diners were reading up on their history, we were able to sync each dish with a piece of art or design that corresponded its significance to Syracuse's timeline. 7 courses. We know it was a little ambitious, but we were able to create a beautiful hour-and-a-half dining experience.
Obviously, just throwing salt on a plate is probably not enough. But incorporating methods that use salt, like canning, preserving, or curing, starts a conversation. So in our friend's tiny kitchen above the gallery, we cranked out 175 small plates. This we was a ragtag team of volunteers, our friends, who helped us plate, cook, and serve the recipes we had tested the week before. Fan favorites included Hobbs, a Moroccan flatbread that we served with dates, a preserved lemon harissa that I actually got in Morocco, and topped with pistachios. We also did a mussel ceviche, so steamed mussels, mangoes, shallots, and cilantro. Puffy jet black pork buns, which were huge by the way, had tender pork shoulder, flash pickled carrots and cucumbers, and a spicy sambal on top. And our final course was a classic lemon madeleine, served alongside a strawberry and blueberry gastrique and an olive oil pearl made from tapioca maltodextrin. Science.
The 7 courses corresponded to life, preservation, death, and rebirth. And that's Syracuse. That's the history of the manufacturing that once led a robust Venice of the North into a Rust Belt, almost forgotten city. But, like any great city, there is a time of rebirth where arts, food, culture, and the people thrive in a city and its traditions. And that's us. We really like to try and cultivate a passion and interest for the future in the cities that we pop up to spark an energy for that city's community.
So, if you're still not convinced, let's go to a city that saved the potato, had one of the first cheese factories in the world, and had a brewery in almost every corner. Does that look familiar? Over a year ago, Ryan Miller, a passionate foodie and lover of all things Utica, convinced us to make a drive out here and have a beer with him. On that first day, we quickly brainstormed and created Mesh, a networking event where makers, entrepreneurs, students, and hackers could come together and mingle, exchange talent, or eat our delicious food. We sparked what we thought was not only a series of successful events, but a lifelong friendship with Ryan. And that kind of led into our summer homestead in Utica last year.
Mesh. It was the beautiful, just energized connection where we could meet all of Utica's most passionate locals. Muck was our kitchen, where we met Chris Sunderland as he was shouting out to languages in three different languages, and we were eating in his kitchen and really just celebrating Muck as a community. Meanwhile, down the road, we're eating brick oven pizzas at Deb Richardson's house, and amidst construction, Tim Hardiman sat down with us as he critiqued the first draft of our menu. Thankfully, they all believed in us, and we were able to make these connections and spark an interest into a city that we really knew nothing about.
So, with our historical fact-finding skills a little more polished from Syracuse, we decided to tell this 200-year history of Utica through a 5-course tasting menu that looked on the past, present, and future cultures in these areas.
Culture. It has a myriad of definitions. To tell the story and history of food in Utica, it relies on a combination. The first course of this event paid homage to the Native Americans who harvested this land. They relied and grew corn for sustenance throughout generations. So we made a simple corn cake topped with a sweet pear chutney, arugula, and freshly popped corn.
Our second course was a more literal interpretation of culture, bacteria. Deb had this amazing 5.5-year-old prosciutto curing in her cellar and growing all kinds of funky molds and bacteria and weird stuff. So yeah, we decided to use it. We simply cleaned it up, put it in the oven to make it super crispy, and served it on heirloom tomatoes, good olive oil, and summer savory.
Our third course for this event really was celebrating Utica's history, rich history of accepting people from around the world. So, as we saw that Muck was a beautiful snapshot of this, we made a Bosnian phyllo dough burek stuffed with fresh farmer's cheese, a spicy red pepper puree, and garnished with mint and lavender. The cheese was also a nod to Mohawk Valley being one of the first in the country to have a large-scale cheese-making production.
Beer was what probably put Utica on the map, so we obviously found a place for it on our menu. The rich history of breweries in this area was thanks in large part to the fact that this was the center of hop production for a while. Most of the hops used in the United States in the late 1800s came from upstate New York. In fact, the hops we used for our dish, Jim Robles' family had been growing those hops since late 1800s and what Saranac still uses today. So we brined our chicken in those hops and some herbs, roasted it with some Utica club, and served it on top of barley, sage, and watermelon radish.
Our last course for this event was a glimpse into the future by remembering the past. A famous breeder in Utica, Chauncey Goodrich, was responsible for saving the potato. With his scientific method to harvesting, he was able to create a new breed called the garnet chili, and he pretty much remastered the French fry as we know it. To honor this, we made a dough from that potato with the whey from our farmer's cheese, topped it with local peaches, lemongrass from Deb's garden, and miso whipped cream. Our goal for this event, and the events that we've done, is to not only challenge what a backyard garden might grow, but also explore the palette of the future. A cross-pollination of culture, tradition, and soil can only inspire the best dishes.
And that's kind of the point. We can't pop up in a city without doing our due diligence, our homework. I mean, of course we had to go to the local Karen wrist tying festival at Muck. Of course we had to talk to Jim about hops and Beth Irons about the local farms here. And we had to talk to Joe and Franklin and Mark about the people and the history here. It's those conversations and anecdotes and stories that lead to our design. Our tables were laminated with historical photographs showing what life was like here in the 1800s in Utica. We even hung up posters that featured different processes and cultures that we incorporate into our dinner. And we left our diners with a takeaway, an actual garnet chili potato, so that they too could one day grow their own piece of history.
So we called this talk Food and Design. We showed you the first part, how we thank our farmers and dive into kitchens. Secondly, how we cultivate a relationship with the farmers and really show you guys the future of dining. And it's really where we spark our interest for the future of food. It's up to the farmers and how we spark our generation for the future and passion and interest in the communities that we find our way to keep cooking.
And every community has these undervalued aspects that I think they can take advantage of. So whether it's the farmer that's been here for generations, or the refugee that's traveled here just 4 weeks ago, or the chicken riggy, we still don't know what that is, but it became a staple here. Every city has a story to tell.
So you guys are probably wondering why we even call ourselves Roux. A roux is equal parts fat and flour. It's a thickener of sauces, the savior to Thanksgiving gravy, and an introduction into classical French cuisine. It's a base, creating endless possibilities.
And that's how we see ourselves. We are a catalyst for food and design exploration. We combine innovative cooking and community storytelling in a unique eating experience. It's equal parts exciting and engaging. It's written in Rohan. It's good food and good company, and that's Roux. And we hope one day you guys can join us for dinner. Thank you.
Thank you.